We see a house is kind of boarded up. This is basically the trap house. Alright, so Jeezy released the final installment to his TM series. It's called TM 104, The Legend of the Snowman. It was released August 23rd. It has 18 songs and it runs for 59 minutes. The album cover, we basically see a picture of him basically airbrushed, and that's pretty much it for that. Moving into the singles, we have one, and it's called One Time, and it's the 9th song on the album. Standouts, we have track 1, The Intrapreneur, which is a pretty clever play on him being a former trapper turned entrepreneur. It's the opening track, and he speaks on what it took to go from rags to riches, as well as the various situations and obstacles put in his way. For example, he speaks about his cousin JoJo introducing him to the dope game, but it was his homie Silk who actually showed him the ropes. Then we have track 2, Big Shit. Jeezy speaks on his stature in music and the proven track record to support that claim. So basically he's just, talking his shit, pumping out his chest on his record. Then we have track 3, Look Like. Jeezy vents a bit on his record and he says, "The fuck I look like letting a nigga play me. Fuck him. Grown ass man, but I'm still my mama's baby." Which is true, because no matter how old you get, you're always going to be your mother's child. Then he says, 2020, I'm getting money like the 80s, because in the 80s was the era of the crack. And that's when people was really, getting money like that. But he's saying that so many years later, he's still getting money like that, headed into the new year. He says, "Where the mashed potatoes, nigga? Everything is gravy." He basically saying that he done made so much that everything else is just icing on the cake or gravy on the mashed potatoes. Then he says, "The fuck I look like playing with these rappers. He who wears a crown, nigga, king of these trappers." So basically he's staking his claim as one of the kings of trapping, or the king of trapping, because you have 3 heads to that monster. You got him, you got Gucci Mane, and you got T.I., and all 3 of them in some form or fashion have stated their claim as being the originator of that particular genre of music, but all 3 are trap pioneers. And then we have track 7, One Time. It's the lead single, and I think the only single on the record thus far. Jeezy paints a story of his routine as a former trapper. Then we have track 10, MLK Boulevard, featuring Meek Mill. It's a hard street anthem with some swag rap lyrics. Also one of my favorites off of the album. That with track 1 as well as track 2, but I'll be getting into that more later in this video. Then we have track 12, Don't Make Me. Jeezy talks about what it took to get where he is and says don't make him go back to the way he used to be, which he also talked about that on the Breakfast Club, how he's changed so much in terms of maturity from who he was back then until now. But he says, "Don't trust the soul, exactly what it told me. Couldn't even trust him is what he showed me. Yeah, when you broke the rules, dog, you broke my heart. 10-room mansion sitting in the dark." So right here, he's basically recounting the situation where somebody close to him probably did some foul shit and it broke him. And then he's speaking about sitting alone in his mansion, basically pondering his thoughts in darkness. This probably was a time of depression or something. Then he says, 10 steps ahead, I'm a visionary. Who? Oh, or woo. Richest place is the cemetery. That's right. So right here, he's basically speaking to how he's thinking in terms of plotting his moves. And once again, going back to the Breakfast Club, he said that he has his next 10 to 15 years planned out. He's just sitting back and seeing how he's gonna actually attack the situation. And then he said, richest place in the world is a cemetery. I mean, because, yeah, in reality, if you think about it, there's more people dead than there is alive. And all the people that's dead, if you added up all their wealth, it would be the richest, place in the world, which that's a pretty interesting thing to say. Then he says, if the street's a jungle, I'm a fucking lion. Shit can be impossible. I'm fucking trying. So right here, he's basically saying that the streets is a hectic place, but regardless of that, he gonna be him and do him, and that regardless of what's thrown at him, he's gonna find a way through, which speaks to his perseverance and not giving up. Then moving on to track 13, we got Fake Love featuring Queen Naija. The track samples I Love You by Faith Evans, and throughout the entire project you're gonna see him using various different samples, which I thought was one of the highlights of the album. But he basically discusses people being fake and disloyal to him, but when the fame and money came in, those same people showed up acting as if nothing happened, and basically they had nothing coming. Then we have track 16, Play It Safe featuring Noah Scarf. It's a smooth rap R&B type record. And he says, yeah, the bigger the risk, the bigger the prize. Yeah, I love her on top while I'm gripping them thighs. Yeah, Bonnie and that Clyde shit. We show up and we show out. Thug love in that backseat every time we go out. Ha ha. Got her legs vibrating. Yeah, I'm about to catch a felony. So basically he's basically describing he didn't put it down on her and she having an orgasm. That's why her legs is shaking like that. Then he says, realer than her last man I'll ever be. Young, real player shit. Call me Young Bill Bellamy. If you're familiar with Bill Bellamy, you will get that reference. So go look up some of his earlier movies and you'll see what he's talking about. Then he says, all about principle, a man of integrity. Yeah, chances make champions against all odds. I'm an introvert, baby. Yeah, stay away from them frauds, which I can connect with that because I'm an introvert as well. I don't like being around bullshit and people doing weird shit. So that's why I be to myself most of the time. So that record was pretty dope, and which is why I felt as though it was a standout, and it was also one of my favorites, and it was also pretty smooth. So. And then to close out the project, we get The Real MVP featuring John Legend. Basically, it closes out the album, but it also pays tribute to his mother who passed away, which he discussed that on the Breakfast Club. He said he was spending all this time getting his money, but while he was doing all of that, you had people around him dying, and one of those people ended up being his mother. And so I thought it was pretty cool for him to, to close out the record, paying tribute to his mother. But anyways, moving on, sleepers are mids. We have track 4, Better Tell 'Em. We have track 6, Already Rich featuring CeeLo Green. We have track 9, White Keys. We have track 11, 06 featuring Rick Ross. We have track 14, All Night featuring Gunna. We have track 15, Foreplay featuring Ty Dolla $ign. And we have track 17, Don't Forget. Skips, we have Mr. Pyrax, which is track 5, and track 8, Oh Yeah, featuring Ball Greasy. Features, we have CeeLo Green, Ball Greasy, Meek Mill, Rick Ross. Those two features were pretty interesting because they were the sequencing was back to back in terms of the way those two records were put on the album, which I thought was pretty interesting. And then we have Queen Naija, Gunna, Ty Dolla $ign, Noah Scarf, and John Legend. My personal favorites were The Entrepreneur, Big Shit, MLK Boulevard, Don't Make Me, Play It Safe, White Keys, and All Night featuring Gunna. And my overall conclusion, I think one of the big highlights of this project was the samples. Like, for example, Foreplay was a sample of Hotline by Pretty Ricky. All Night sample, Back That Ass Up by Juvenile, or was basically an interpolation of that. We have Fake Love, which sample I Love You by Faith Evans, and then Don't Forget, which samples Logic's Thank You, which was on his Young Sinatra 4 big mixtape. And what's interesting about that is both Young Sinatra 4 and this project were the closing chapters of those particular series, which I thought was pretty cool. And overall, I gave the album a 16 out of 18, which came out to an 88.8, and you round that up, so that's basically an 89%. So overall, this was a pretty dope effort put forth by him, and a great way to close out the series. But anyways, guys, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I appreciate you all for taking the time to watch this video. Also, make sure you guys go out and support his album, buy it, stream it, all of that. And until the next video, peace.
It's time to clap your hands. It's time to clap your hands. It's time to clap your hands.